This is from the New York Times. Caleb Kane was a college dropout, looking for direction. He turned to YouTube. Soon he was pulled into a far-right universe, watching thousands of videos filled with conspiracy theories, misogyny, and racism. I was brainwashed. Man, do you understand that in order to make this fear-mongering, there was someone who worked hours on this intro? Because when you scroll down, you get to see different YouTubers disappear, and it's all white and it's scary, right? And then as you scroll even lower, it's like I was brainwashed. Now, if you're out of the loop, the mainstream media is attacking YouTube with all it's got. And you got activists on Twitter, they're forming ranks with the mainstream media and journalists, and they're writing smear articles on YouTube on a daily basis. In fact, the New York Times wrote 3 articles in one day against YouTube. And part of it has to do with the ideology. YouTube is still the most free speech platform out of the entire Silicon Valley. I don't know if this says much, but it's true. I mean, compared to Facebook, where the censorship is amok, or compared to Twitter, YouTube is still censored, but not to the point of the other platforms. So they wanted to get it in line. They want YouTube to fall in line with all the other Silicon Valley's corporations. And it's also part of the fact that the YouTubers are doing damage to the mainstream media because they're taking away from their numbers. Their ratings are dropping, and their credibility is taking a huge hit. Let me give you an example from The Verge, the publication which decided to harass a scientist in a day where he managed to accomplish something that no other human being did. They made out this video on how to build a computer. And it was a really, really well-produced video. I think it took at least $1,000 to produce that video. It's got really flashy designs. It's got really high, expensive cameras to film it with. And it's very professionally made. However, it was a miracle that that computer started. Because it was painfully obvious that the guy who was making the computer had absolutely no idea how to make one. And this is pretty much the problem with the mainstream media. It's really flashy. It's got all this cool design. You know, like when you go to the page of the New York Times and you scroll down and you get to see, you know, all of the flashiness and the nicely wrapped package, but it got nothing of substance. So at the first glance, it looks incredibly professional. It looks incredibly well made. But when you get into the gist of it, you realize that there are people who are just spouting nonsense. And because of that, it's really easy for someone with a cheap camera and a microphone from his mother's basement to debunk these videos in just a couple of minutes. And obviously, like, these publications don't like that because you're obviously saying, look, if you can't make a computer, like if you really can't do the basic, how can we trust this publication to talk about anything related to tech? They're not even able to hire a guy that knows how to build a computer. And even then, like, the editor who looked at this video didn't know how to make a computer. Like, at no point did someone looked at it and said, hold on a little bit, this is just not the way it's supposed to do. Meanwhile, you got YouTubers who are showing you how to make a computer from their garage, and sure, it doesn't look professionally made. There's not that many cool intros and outros and different camera angles from expensive 4K cameras that are filming it, but at least you get to understand how to build a computer. If you do it like this, you're going to set fire to your house. Because otherwise you can't explain why the New York Times is attacking someone like Philip DeFranco. You know, the most milquetoast person out there that's just talking about the news is now being presented in an article that talks about brainwashing and pushing people towards the far right. Who else you got? You got Computing Forever. Really, Computing Forever is here. Jordan Peterson, a world-renowned clinical psychologist, is on an article that tells how YouTube is pushing people into the far right. This is insane. Like, anyone who watches any of these channels, they know it's like, okay, Steven Crowder, this guy is paid by Glenn Beck. Like, there's no way this guy is in any way a radical. He's like the cookie-cutter conservative that your progressive mom warned you about. You know, I'm not into stereotyping, but if there was a stereotype for conservatives, this is how it would look like. This is the face of the stereotype. But anyway, so this article isn't made for the people who watch YouTube, all right? This article is for the 40 or 50-year-old reader that reads the New York Times in order to get scared, right? Like, this is a fear-mongering article. And they don't show any stats. They don't show any polls or any numbers. Because had they done that, it would show that YouTube is actually pushing people to the left. There were actually studies done, and it shows that YouTube is constantly pushing people more to the left towards authoritative sources like CNN, which kind of makes sense because this is what YouTube said they want to do. But no, what the New York Times is they take a random bloke, and no one even heard about it. Like, who the fuck is Caleb Cade? It's a college dropout looking for direction. Like, okay, but is he representative of anything? Like, you just have a cherry-picked example. You went to the cherry tree and you picked the cherry. You picked Caleb Cain's cherry, and now you're showing it's like, oh, look, this is what happened. All right, but is this a trend? Is this something? No, we don't know. It doesn't matter, right? So we're going to go into the life of Caleb Cain and how he fell down the alt-right rabbit hole. Now, the article is really long, so I'm not going to go through all of it. In fact, I'm just going to pick a little bit, and I'm going to read the rest of it on my live stream, because there's a lot to unpack here. Yikes. But what I want to take from this entire article is this little snippet here. Alright, like this little snippet, which is going to make everyone that's reading this facepalm. So they decided, in order to do their fear-mongering, to pick a random guy. They could have picked anyone, you know? They could have gotten to prison and picked someone that allegedly watched YouTube videos and landed in jail. No, instead they picked Mr. K. So what is the story of Mr. K? What exactly did they do that is so horrible that if you have kids, you need to make sure they don't watch the Franco on YouTube? Well, did he believe in a white ethno-state? No. Did he start denying the Holocaust? No. But because the far-right ideology was bleeding into his daily life, he started referring himself as a traditional conservative, which was committed to old-fashioned gender norms. And here is what he transgressed. Okay, here is where he actually did the worst thing imaginable for the writer of the New York Times that he decided to make this article. He dated an evangelical Christian woman. Oh my God, Mr. K, no. No, Mr. K, what have you done? Look what Philip DeFranco did to you. Look what he did to you. He dated an evangelical Christian woman and he argued with his liberal friends. He was brainwashed. I'm not making this up. Like, no, like this is legitimately the gist of the article. This is what happened, alright? This is the hell that Caleb Cade had to go through. He had to marry an evangelical Christian woman, and he was arguing with his liberal friends at school, and these people did this. These people did this to him. But here's the thing, right? Like, the people who are writing on the far left, they base themselves around emotions. They know that most people are just going to skim the headlines and they're going to go, it's like, oh wow, this is really bad, right? It's scary, very scary. Oh, they use words like far right. Oh, far right evil. Blah. Philip DeFranco. Oh, Philip DeFranco probably is far right. Like, look, oh, I saw my kid watching this guy. I need to get my kid to stop. You know, I need to go on Twitter and express my outrage and tweet at Team YouTube. What is this? Why is Ben Shapiro on your platform? It's turning my son into a horrible person that wants to marry an evangelical Christian woman. Please stop it. And you know, as you're reading through this, you're going to find out that there is a solution. All right, there is a solution for this problem. And I wish like I was making this up or this would be something from The Onion. But no, the suggestion from the person who wrote this article is to watch a new group of YouTubers who are trying to build a counterweight to the far right. And by the way, far right, Philip DeFranco, right? Computing Forever, Ben Shapiro, right? These are the people you need to worry about. And this group calls itself BreadTube, a reference to the left-wing anarchist Peter Kropotkin, The Conquest of Bread. This is an anarcho-communist book. This is a book that encourages people to go door to door and steal the shit from their American citizens, if communism were ever being put in America, alright? It also includes a British philosopher who hosts the channel Philosophy Tube, where he posts video about topics like transphobia, racism, and Marxist economics. So basically, don't let your kid watch the evil YouTubers, because he might end up dating a Christian woman and argue with his liberal friends. Instead, get your kid to watch the far left people, the Marxists, which might actually get him to go part of a protest and then get arrested. Because there's a lot of examples I could cherry pick from the far left, with the guy that had a stable job and he had come from a wealthy family, and then he went to a protest and used the bike lock to hit some other American in the head and he got arrested. You know, I can make videos like that as well, but I'm not such a disingenuous twat like these people are. And what's really interesting is that while the New York Times gets to try and radicalize the youth to send them towards communism and towards Marxism, like as far left as you can, the actual people getting demonized is up-centrists. You know, people like Crowder, who is just like a random conservative. I think he didn't even support Trump during the first election. These are the faces of horror, the faces of dread. We got Philip DeFranco, we got Ben Shapiro. You know, like these are the people you need to keep your kid away from, and instead get your kid involved with Antifa or something like that. It's just bewildering. I don't even know what to say. Like, for me, a Romanian who has lived through a part of the atrocities that the communist regime brought into my country, and who had stories after stories told by my parents about just how hell life was during the communist regime, and now I see the New York Times, a major American publication, just pushing for communism, just blatant communist propaganda. Like, yeah, these are the good guys. These people, do not watch, you know, like conservatives who marry Christian. That's horrible. No. You need to read some Kropotkin. You need to get your hand on some anarcho-communist literature, comrade, and fight the good fight. You know, like, basically for anyone who doesn't understand these ideologies, it's like Nazism kills people based on ethnicity, and communism kills people based on class. You know, the problem that I have is with the killing. Like, if you read the Communist Manifesto, it's a revolution. You're supposed to revolt. The working class is supposed to take away the property from everyone else. Like, these people, they're not just going to open the door and allow you to take their businesses. There's going to be a revolution. So you have the New York Times encouraging this type of mindset, encouraging this type of ideology. And it's the Marxists and people who openly claim to be Marxists that are complaining that YouTube is not enforcing their terms of service, which, by the way, has nothing against. There is no hate speech when you push for communism, right? There is no hate speech when you push for anarcho-communism. That's fine. It's not the fair playground. You know, like, I would rather have a system where the anarcho-communists get to speak and everyone gets to speak so that the ideas get challenged, but they don't want that, because you can't have ideas from Kropotkin be pushed on the public and the public agree with them. The only way you can have that is if all other opposition is silenced, so that the public gets only one type of idea, and this is what brainwashing actually looks like.